Hello, honest citizen. Doing good, honest citizen. How are you? Very nice night here in Las Cruces. No problem. Stiff brother. Honest citizen said stiff brother. I don't know what that means.
But if that's ever your, your hesitation, we have fixed that problem. Yeah.
It must be one of them.
No, we're doing home life. I still have to just decorate, finish our Christmas decorations. Hi.
Well, Susan's birthday is the 10th, so our family tradition is Christmas Day.
That sounds pretty bad, honest citizen. We'll have to talk about that later.
Welcome everybody, it's 5:33 hours. Recognize that people value their time, especially since it is like all season. And so we'll get started. Thank you for being here. This is a meeting in reference to concerns that have been brought up regarding our downtown business area. Regarding this meeting, some of the things that we were looking at addressing was our business watch program, crime prevention, environmental design, and then obviously a procedural reporting was a crime response. I am Lieutenant Joy Wiedela. I'm with Lcpd, and I'm in charge. Take it, this means that I'm not projecting well enough. Can you hear me now? Yes. Great. Okay, I'm Lieutenant Joy Wiedela. I am the lieutenant over our community outreach section. That does include my community outreach team, the school resource officers, ACO, and codes. And again, we are here to address some concerns that have been brought up in reference to our downtown business. Today I do have my community outreach team and members. They are here to address any of those concerns. But like I said, as far as agenda-wise, we would like to go over some basic business watch and business crime prevention information that will include environmental design, as well as procedural, like what to report, what not to report. In reference to why we're here, I'm curious, is everybody from the downtown area? Wonderful. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of yes. Wonderful. Okay, so I know a lot of times we want to have representation or at least statistics and information in reference to what is going on. So I have pulled some general statistics please be aware that they're not like validated by our actual intel unit, but just so that you can have a basic understanding of like what's taking place. So what I've done is in reference to the downtown area, the calls for service of what we've seen as far as last year compared to this year, I went back to our November numbers. And as far as November in 2021, like as far as downtown calls for service, we had 33 in 2021, and then now 2022, 42 calls for service. And those calls for service obviously can range from anything from a frequent patrol, which is an officer-initiated call, to something like vagrancy, which has to do with trespassing issues. Yes, that is an increase in calls over the last year, if we're just looking at that month. There was also an increase, however, in officer initiation, meaning that a lot more of those calls, 14 versus the 11 were officer initiated, where they were the ones actually producing the calls. When it comes to strategy, when we look at our personnel and how we're managing them, obviously we only have so many resources. And just to give you like sort of an understanding of what other like areas that we have within our city, a lot of times the areas that we are hitting with our resources, again, downtown's having 33 to 42, but a lot of other areas are having 100 plus calls for service. And so this is where, when it comes to managing those resources and managing that personnel, we're gonna do what's called directed patrols, and those directed patrols are gonna be to those specific areas that are having concerns. With that, we also hear you. I am here tonight to say that we heard you, and we heard your concerns in reference to crime increasing, and having a heart of compassion in reference to the individuals that are potentially the root of that crime increasing, but then also, I understood that there's also some fear regarding that as well. So hence why the community outreach team is here tonight, to hopefully go over some of the things that we can do to address that community concern. One of the things that I always love to point out is the fact that as a police department, yes, we are here to serve you, and we want to help you to the best of our abilities. However, we can't do that by ourselves. This is where we really reach out to our community, and I'm going to totally stress collaboration. That it needs to be a collaboration between all of you, and this is where I totally want to thank each and every one of you for being here tonight, because it takes participation in looking at what's going on within a community to address it and make it better. As you go along, if you have questions, comments, please raise your hand. We'll try to get to them as best as we can. I know that the meeting was scheduled until 7:30, and again, I want to be very respectful of people's times. It's a busy holiday time of the year. So with that, I'm going to initially turn it over to Officer Glenn. He is our public liaison officer. He's also in charge of our neighborhood watch program and our business watch program. We would strongly suggest that it would be a great idea to start a business watch downtown here within the community, and that's something that he's going to get into.
Thank you, Lieutenant. So again, my name is Aaron Glenn. I'm the Community Liaison Officer for Lcpd. So I'm going to talk about two of our subjects, and the first of that is I'm going to relatively briefly go over crime prevention through environmental design. And the reason I say briefly is one of the services that we offer is if you want an individual consultation for your business, for us to come out and do a walk through your business and do a relatively custom idea and suggestions for how to set up your business related to crime prevention by design, we can do that. So I'm just going to kind of touch the overview of what the areas of focus are, and then we'll get into the business watch part, and we'll get into more detail about that. So I wanted to expand a little bit too. Everybody's from the downtown area. How many people are associated to a business? Outstanding. And how many people are just residents in attention? Awesome. Outstanding. Thank you. So crime prevention by design is essentially how can you set up a business that both is going to deter criminals from even wanting to approach your business, as well as making your business more attractive for your clientele base. And there's really four areas that I like to look at it from, which is the broad surroundings of the business, and then the actual exterior of the building itself. And then the interior of the building, so how you set up whatever your particular business is. And then lastly is material safety. So in general, the surroundings of the building, we're talking about parking lots, alleys, anything that is notably exterior of the building, not the actual physical entry exits of the building. The big things we want to focus on here is visibility. So we want to increase visibility for both clients, patrons, and any of your staff, as well as increase visibility for officers that are driving by and the public to see. So we want to increase lighting, we want to minimize dark spots or areas of lacking in visibility. So whether that comes to foliage or plants, or whether that's dumpsters or anything else like that, or setting up how people are parking that creates areas that you can't see very well. And then also going into this goes for the exterior and the surroundings. Also, how can you set up signage really well and video surveillance? And again, I'm not going to go into details about each of those because we can do that custom if you guys would like to do that. Then we get into the exterior of the building. So entries and exits, windows, think about HVAC systems if you have potential roof access points, if it's if you have a subfloor where some of the HVAC is underneath, if there's access points to there aren't a lot in Las Cruces, but if your building or facility has a basement, that's also something to consider. What are the access points to that? And although this is generally for business, we also offer the same service for residences. If you want one of us to come out to your house, we can go through your house and the exterior and see how you can also set up your house to better prevent crime or create better visibility for your home. So the interior, there's several different circumstances in which we can talk about the interior of it. Of course, whether it's a retail store, whether it's a restaurant, anything like that is going to change, which is also part of the reason that we'd rather come out and do a custom discussion about it. But in general, you want really good visibility to your employees. If somebody is coming into your business, you want to have an employee that is immediately right there, that sees them and greets them. So that not only creates obviously a good entry environment for your customers that are coming in, but if somebody does have some negative intention, they're obviously being immediately seen and recognized by your staff and greeted kindly, of course. Related to the signage here, mostly we're talking about access control. What that means is making sure that your signage shows people where they should and should not be, if they're a customer or whether they're one of the staff members. To include things like restrooms, other than it's just good for people to be able to get to the restrooms if they need to, but that also tells people where they can and cannot be. And lastly is material safety. So we can talk about safes, formatted safes, time lock safes, anything of that nature. Having good policies and procedures for your staff at the end of the night when you're shutting down. So making sure that they have a complete checklist going through the business, securing the entire area. If you do have tills or anything of that nature, making sure that those monies are secured away before the end of the night, put into a safe, or taken, of course, to the drops at the bank, things of that nature. So that way, if somebody does somehow get into that business, they're not going to get much out of it, and that's going to deter that crime in the future. So real quick on, that is the gist of that real quick, and like I said, I'll have my business cards up here. If anybody is interested in getting an individual consultation for that, please just take my contact information and we'll get that scheduled and going after that. But related to that, any questions on crime prevention by design for the time being?
And obviously we'll open up for more questions here at the end. I think a lot of you might have like specific concerns, and hopefully we're going to save a lot more time for just that. Again, this is one of those things where if your business wants an assessment by our team, we can come in and do an assessment and give suggestions in reference to what we feel would be environmental design that would help with crime prevention. Just all you need to do is contact us.
Next, we're moving on to the business watch program. So something that we would really love to see here is a business watch group for all the downtown businesses. And what that is essentially, that is facilitated by the police department, but it is by you, the businesses, for you, the businesses, to help bring the community and the police department, both residents and the businesses, all together, sharing information, looking out for each other, and trying to solve these problems together as a team. So when we're talking about establishing a group, the first thing we of course want to do is we want to identify the area that we want to include. In this case, we're talking about the downtown, which is a relatively specific area, so we don't have to think too hard about that. we want to identify who are some of our stakeholders that are willing to spearhead this. So if we have one or two business owners or managers that would like to be the leads for this group, we do want to identify that. And then the next thing to do is to identify a communication platform. Generally, we would like to use one of the communication sharing threads, something I'm not advocating for any particular one, of course, but WhatsApp, GroupMe, and there's hundreds of them that are like that, but that is just one of those options. So we would want to identify that platform and identify who from each of the businesses wants to be the individual representative that is on that communication thread, on that platform, that is going to be the point of contact for the group, for everybody. And the reason for that, we don't want 300 people on the group thread that are just a bunch of employees that maybe move around. We want that to be a stakeholder, so either an owner or manager, something of that nature. So they're the ones that are controlling what information is on there, and then if they need to give that to their employees, they're going to do that. Identifying when or how you're going to do meetings. This is something that with a business group, as long as you're active on the thread, you don't necessarily individually need to come out and have meetings weekly, monthly, anything like that. But certainly want to bring people together and try and bring more of the businesses or residents into the group so you can build a bigger area of people keeping an eye out for things, looking out and sharing that information with. And hence the collaborations. Some of the things you want to identify is what are goals that the group wants to accomplish. Obviously, crime prevention and crime deterrence is one of our primary focuses, but are there other specific goals that we want to identify as a group? And identify, if we have a bunch of goals, that we want to identify which ones are the higher priorities, lower, and then do evaluations and tracking. See if some of the things that we're doing are working, if they're not working, try to come up with different ideas. We as police officers have lots of different training on things to do, but we have a perspective that is kind of aimed at a certain outcome, and somebody who's not an officer may have an idea that none of us are going to think of. It doesn't come to us. So having business suggestions from businesses, from managers, from employees saying, hey, let's try X, Y, Z, because we want, maybe this will help deter the crime, maybe this will help solve the problem, maybe it'll help solve the underlying issue as to why this is going on. So the more heads we can bring together, and the more ideas we can come up with, the more likely we are to have things to try and continue on forward. So getting into a little bit of reporting and what you're actually calling in, as opposed to just information that might be shared with the group. One of the kind of simple thresholds that I like to give, and this goes whether it's a neighborhood watch or a business watch, if something is suspicious, then you definitely want to keep track of it. If you think something is suspicious of a criminal act, that is something that you want to contact the police department for. That's not to say if something is suspicious, you cannot call the police department if you can't think of a specific crime, but in general, when you're considering whether you should call the police department or just kind of write it down in a log. So suspicious, like it doesn't look right, versus suspicion of a crime. And part of the whole idea of having a business watch in the area is for consistency, and that is both for consistency of officers' response as well as consistency of what you can expect from officers and when and how businesses are calling us, or not how, when businesses are calling us and what they are asking of us. And I give the example, a lot of times we get businesses that will call for a trespassing or something of that nature, and one business just wants, hey, I want them to leave, and another business wants a trespass card, or another business may want, yes, I want to file charges for trespassing because we know this is a recurring problem with one individual. So we want everybody to be on the same page, so we're getting consistency both from the businesses and for the businesses by the officers. And the other thing that does, again, we can also identify what is working, what isn't working, and we can also address concerns if we're running into certain hiccups or issues related to enforcement from us. That being said, so the information, some of the general concepts, once this is established, the whole idea is that if every business has one representative, if somebody comes down and breaks a window or commits criminal damage to property, or you're identifying a specific individual that is consistently trespassing, once one of those businesses identifies it, they can send that information to the other businesses. Obviously, if there's an immediate emergency, call the police department. I should preface with that. But we want to identify that, hey, this person just broke a window, they're yelling, hooting and hollering, whatever the case is. Send it out to the group. on top of obviously the police response, so that every other one of the business owners, managers, whatever the case is, can be looking out for that individual or whatever the circumstance is. That way, they're looking out for it, and they know who the person is or people are that are doing that, so we can get that identified and hopefully can prevent it from happening to 5, 6, 7 businesses if it already happens once, if that makes sense. And then who shares the information? Of course, that information in this particular case, if we're up for establishing this group, that information is to be shared with the group, specifically for the group, for the purposes of crime prevention. This is not for the purposes of businesses putting people out on blast or social media stuff, anything of that nature, but it is for the purpose of sharing for crime prevention for your businesses. If we are able to establish that group, once we have the individual representatives from each business, we would have a more specific meeting to go into who, what, when, why, where can and should be shared, what cannot be shared, things of that nature. And I kind of touched on it a little bit, and the other part of that is just to bring out new ideas. Again, a lot of people come up with solutions that we're not going to think of, and that's what it's all about. So, with that, I open it up for any questions related to the group, or any of the managers, owners, anything like that, interested in spearheading this group, and go from there. So, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Kozlowski with the KFOX Business Partnership.
Yes.
So we actually, in this group, are looking for, we actually have a group of people that have contacted us that I refer to you that are interested in being a part of this.
Awesome.
And I believe, that's something definitely that we'd like to be able to be a part of as well. We can't spearhead it, but we can definitely be a part and help get the information out.
Outstanding. And that doesn't have to be here now. We don't have to say, hey, identify these people. We'll get that going on email so we can start getting that put together. Thank you. Any other questions for me right now? Yes, ma'am.
This might be a silly question, but there is no silly question. When you say call the police department, is that 911 or is it a police department number?
That is a wonderful question. Thank you for asking that. I should have clarified that. So, when I say call the police department, both of the numbers that I'm going to give you, one of which is of course 911, they both go to the same place, which is Mesilla Valley Regional Dispatch Authority. So any calls need to go to dispatch. It just depends whether it is an emergent call, so a 911 call, or whether it is what we call a non-emergency call. So if there's a broken window and there's nothing going on right then, that is a non-emergency call. So you can call into the non-emergency number, and that goes to the same people, the same place. It just doesn't tie up the actual 911 call system. So that number is 575-526-0795, and we can certainly get that to you on my business cards, and we can write down the information on there as well. Very good question.
There's also another option is documentation or to share with the group. You can do the online reporting, which is through our website.
It sure would be nice to have a direct non-emergency number. The non-emergency number, you have to go through the phone tree and feel like it's an emergency. So it would be nice to have a direct.
Anything?
I'm curious, do you guys understand why we're trying to even do the business watch groups and the neighborhood watch groups? For us, it's what we tend to call a force multiplier. I know it sounds silly, but at the same time, in a day and age where we see crime increasing, it's really trying to do more with less. And we are not alone in the nation. This is nationwide. And so for us, it really is looking at collaboration and hearing your concerns, hearing what's going on here downtown, and then saying, okay, we're gonna take it seriously and we can address it as much as we can, but then also saying, please help us. And so when it comes to things just like this, things as far as environmental design, I'll give you a great example. One of the incidents that we had down here was in reference to rocks being thrown. Well, guess what? Rocks are part of that environmental design. If I can pick up a rock and throw it, guess what? That's the crime. Now, not cool that we're in a day and age where we have to necessarily think this way, but at the same time, if I am a business owner, maybe it is me saying I'm going to be cognizant of what I am putting down and and maybe I'm gonna make rocks that are like super heavy so that I can lift them, or I'm gonna use more of a pebble type of thing versus rocks that can actually cause damage.
Those are city lots. I mean,
It's been
you know,
addressed.
if you're talking about business owners, I came out of the door twice, and the second time I looked over at the tree and I go, well, if you're gonna break my window, you're gonna have to bring your own rocks, so. They're gone now, thank you to the city for recognizing that that's even an issue, but we appreciate
And for those that, I don't know if everybody heard them, but yes, there was one time where we had city rocks that were used. And so as a city, we will own that, and we will say,
No, I mean,
yes,
I thank
that,
you for
yes,
raising
and we recognized that. And so for us, it's also communicating with our other departments to say, hey, guess what? Like, environmental design needs to be stressed throughout the city as well.
I've got a Zoom meeting that I'm gonna get to, so I'm not ignoring
And I can come up with the microphone. If, like, and I think this is just being, like, respectful for everybody so that they can hear.
My name is Isabel Torres. I live in the community. I don't have a business, hopefully someday. But I feel that, for all the ones that do have a business and you get up every day. I know it's disrespectful to have these individuals break your windows or, you know, just stand around. But I think the problem is still gonna remain unless the city handles it. And I'm talking about the individuals, the homeless individuals, the ones that are standing there talking by themselves, the ones that have nowhere to go but to pester the people. And I think that problem is only gonna be solved through the city. Because as much as the officers can do and the people can do, if these individuals are still lingering around, without nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, they're still gonna be doing the same thing. You know, I believe that the city should step in, get these individuals a facility, put them in there, and start cleaning up Las Cruces. Because other than that, I mean, the police can pick them up, throw them in jail, the judges release them time and time again, and they're doing the same thing over and over, you know? So I don't think anything's gonna, well, I think that's very beneficial, and the police officers going in there and helping more than what they usually do would be great, but without cleaning your city, I think you're gonna have the same issues time and time again. I mean, these people are repeating, you know, it's repetition all the time. And I see it and I hear it, and it's devastating because I hear the mayor wanting to clean up the city, but if you don't clean it up, these individuals, they're still gonna be around. I've seen them laid on sides, tents, and, you know, and if he would put his part, put a facility to get out of downtown at least, you know, these gentlemen get to their business.
So I hear you there, and one of the things that I always want to stress is that, yes, you're right, this is our city, and we need to be taking care of it and being responsible for it as a community. So I hear you. I don't think this is an easy, quick fix solution by any means. I think it's going to take city, but I think it's also going to even take other community partners in order to address it as well. And just to realize that, yeah, we are all in this together. And so this is where, again, when it comes to having these discussions, hopefully it is a catalyst to start some other things to occur. I mean, like,
We need a Nerf microphone.
Thank you. Thanks for putting this together, but the young lady brings up an issue, which is we've got a problem with homeless, and therefore we need to make buildings to solve it. But have we addressed the main causes for homelessness? And number one and number two, are these crime issues, or when the officers come out, do they just have to tell them to move along? I mean, are they arresting people that are, or are they saying they're homeless and therefore they don't really do crimes unless it's something something very serious and they just have to, so it seems to me like creating a building for it is not gonna solve the problem. And I don't know if the city has put much resources into trying to figure out what causes homelessness. If people are coming here, I mean, we might have the most beautiful building in the world for the homeless, but what if it just draws more and more homeless people here? I mean, what are we doing to address the root of homelessness, the cause?
We did a couple of buildings that.
So, obviously, I'm qualified as far as the second part of that question, where I think I heard you saying was that you're concerned in reference to whether we're addressing the root. I know that there are meetings scheduled in reference to just that, in looking at how we can do better in those areas. Now,
I brought this up with some of the city leaders, is why does our city seem to have the most per capita empty commercial buildings of any place that I've ever seen? I went over to, a couple of years back, I went over to Panhandle, and I was in, I think, one of the cities over there, I forget the name, but didn't look like there was any empty commercial buildings except the ones that they were building. So is there any relationship between whatever we have going on here that helps breed empty commercial buildings and homelessness? I'm just curious if there's some root cause that could be addressed to help. Maybe the issue is helping make us more prosperous, is one thing.
I think you raise extremely valid points. I don't have answers for you. I know that the city is looking into it. From the police department perspective, the second part of your question of whether or not we're able to charge or make an arrest, yes, if there is a crime we can charge, we can make an arrest. Now, whether that assists with the big picture problem, I think it's a part of it, and I think it can be a component of the solution, hopefully. However, I think other areas need to be addressed first and foremost, and I know that our counselors are doing the best that they can to address those issues as well.
Yeah, I'm Bob Greer. I'm the board president for the Center for Spiritual Living right down the street. I'd just like to know how many of you that are here from the Main Street area have had broken windows in the last 6 months? Well, I believe that the guy that's doing it is the same guy. And all of us who work down here see this guy. And we know who he is. And I'm wondering why the police can't do it. I mean, do you know who he is? And you should. And why we can't do something for that one individual, you know? We've had 2 times last year that we got a back window, a back door, came in when our minister and one of our staff was in the building and ransacked a couple of offices, ran out some audio gear, and then just a few weeks ago, they broke in the daylight in the morning, came by, grabbed one of our decorative rocks, and threw it through the window, which we've now gotten rid of, you know? And we've installed lights, and we're putting in more lights. But, you know, it's like, they see this guy walking around. They know who he is. Why can't we get him some help? Not locking him up ain't the answer. He needs some help, you know, to try to do this. And I don't know about you guys, if you figured it out, the cost of glass has doubled in the last year. So the door that was $650 last year, this year was $2,000, you know? And thank God we have insurance, but I bet our rates will go up. And, you know, it just seems to me that I know that there's a larger problem. I know we have an immense homeless problem, and that's a different discussion. But for the troublemakers that we can identify, we need to try to address those guys individually. They came out and took a report. They were going to send me an email to upload pictures. I never got it. I called back, left a message, never got a return call. So, you know, and I hear this from other business owners who have the same issue. You know, that very little response. So I think there's something that could be done from the police point of view.
So what I hear you saying is that
we have repeat offenders, and you're exactly right. When it comes to having those directed patrols, one of the strategies that the police department has is in reference to looking at the crime density maps within the city. And so we will direct our patrols according to the amount of crime that's happening in an area. But another strategy to that is to look at repeat offenders and to say, how can we best address those individuals? Yes, and this is Officer Klimek. He like specializes in this area, and I know he knows who you're talking about.
Well, is Jonathan Hernandez? Okay, I have a pretrial with him tomorrow morning in magistrate court. He broke a window at the Amador. It's coming up on almost a year ago. And this is to address kind of both of your questions. Yes, we can hopefully figure out who they are, do a good investigation, talk to witnesses, surveillance footage and so forth. And some of them we can't. We don't know who they are. The footage is terrible, whatever. But this guy is a window breaker, and my first plea offer with defense has already been rejected because it may not sound like, but I'm shooting for 2 weeks incarceration. That may not sound like a whole lot for a full misdemeanor, which is up to 180 days, but that's a decent amount of time if I can get it. I'm not an attorney. I'm prosecuting it myself. No, but during the sentencing phase of this, we can look at is he a repeat offender? We can't bring that up during a pretrial or any other part of it, but during a sentencing, you can look at Jonathan Hernandez has done this 20 times, and that can have an impact on the sentencing. So if we have enough evidence, we will pursue it as much as possible. And like Aaron says, if you feel like the officer is just going through the numbers real quick to get out of there, hold him accountable. Make sure that I have video footage. I think I know who this person is, and so forth. Give them as much to work with.
And I do hear what you're saying as far as, okay, like the incarceration is one thing, but it's not necessarily going to help out in the bigger picture of, is this individual getting the help that they need? That is a greater issue. I know when it comes to the community outreach officers, typically what we've seen is that if there is family that wants to invest in this individual, that's always a positive, but a lot of times we're not going to have that. And as a police department, again, we're only part of this problem, and so we can only do so much. Officer Klimek hit in on it as far as like the sentencing goes, and so yes, like it might sound silly that we're looking at like trying to like really pursue the sentencing or the charges, but at the same time realizing that a judge then can actually go through and possibly mandate something that maybe this individual needs. Does that make sense? And so it's for us maybe taking that card.
Social services in these cases. I mean, some community, New Jersey, in the city where they had that, where they had. They need it. Well, just some sort of somebody. You guys are designed to do that. I understand.
Yeah. Like we're like the front end of like the criminal activity occurring. Yeah. Yep.
I might not need it, I talk really loud.
Can everybody hear him?
Yeah. You keep referencing the crime density map, and I want to tell you those numbers are probably skewed because a lot of us have stopped calling because we feel that it's useless. Nothing happens. They come, you guys take a report, there's no follow-up. You know the people by name. Nothing happens. So that map, that crime density map is probably wrong. It's probably skewed to the low side.
And I should probably explain it better. When it comes to that crime density map, we're particularly looking at violent crime and our
You also mentioned
property
calls,
crime.
42 calls. I guarantee you that there's a lot more crime going on that should be called in that is not because we're fed up.
Yes.
It's a waste of our time. It's useless. Nothing happens.
I hear you. And again, for us, when it comes to crime, the violent crime is going to take priority. And so when I'm saying crime density map, we're actually mapping violent crime. So we're mapping the egg assaults, the egg batteries, the gunshot victims. We're mapping all of that when it comes to, again, directed patrol responses. Now, quality of life issues, all of these issues that we've seen in the downtown are a quality of life issue and that they need to be addressed as well. I hear you. And this is where, again, it comes up to us to strategize about what we can do to address those quality of life, even when they aren't violent crimes. This is where community meetings, how we can do better, how us as a group can do better. I hear you.
I'll give you an example. My employee was physically assaulted. He got spit on and he hit. Guy left. We called the police, made a no trespass notice if they find him. They couldn't find him. 20 minutes later, he came back and assaulted him again. My employee defended himself. Defended, except that he got assault charges on himself, also for defending himself. I paid for his lawyer and it just got dismissed today. So, that is, why is he being charged for defending himself? And if you're going to dismiss the charges anyway, why even, and the guy walked away, the guy who assaulted him, walked away, and I don't think they were going to even press charges, so I went up and stopped the two officers and asked him, why are you letting him walk away? He's proven to be violent. In front of those two officers, he threatened to kill me. And so, I asked him, that's nothing?
So this is where,
a different standard than we are. If I had threatened to kill him, I guarantee they would have taken me in.
this is where highlighting what Officer Klimek said, keep us accountable. If you're having issues with the officers on scene, there are, sure.
That's what I'm telling you, your numbers are on the low side. Because a lot of us are just fed up and we're not calling anymore. We're taking matters in our own hands and it's going to get worse. He's like he didn't assault me. I carry a gun and you would have had a dead homeless man right there. So take it for what it's worth. Those numbers are very low.
I hear your frustration.
I wanted to say, my name is Elizabeth Barnes. I think old school beefing up security around downtown area, giving people jobs, 12-hour shifts in different sections of I think that would be a plus and less damage to properties. That's all I want to say.
More than a week and then go back to normal. Because every time I bring something up, it changes for a week and then right back to the way it used to be.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Michael Lee. I live in the Crescent Park area, and I'm with the Neighborhood Watch group there. And we have our share of our problems down there too. Vehicles being stolen, mail being stolen, and properties being broke into. But there's a lot of bad homeless out there, and there's a lot of good ones too. And I don't mean to stick up for them, but I think we're in a new territory, something different than before, more crime than we've ever had. And I think if we go at it a different way, kind of look at it from their point of view, and if we try to sort out the good ones from the bad ones, and if we was to come up with a facility that could take them all off the street, with the help of the police, however, and put them into a facility, and then get various businesses, the people throughout the city, throughout the area, to give them training, to guide them, to help them go down the right road. And as they're in there, we can sort them out, put the ones behind bars that need to be, and help those, get further down the road that they need. And I think if we try to help them that way, of course, it's a new new territory. We haven't ever done anything like that before. But I think, we could do that. It would take a lot of effort on everybody's part to do it too.
Is the issue, we just don't put enough money and build enough facilities? Is that true? I have one question. What percentage of the people that are homeless are addicted? There's gotta be
crime happening right there and then, or the injured party, or it going on visually, they can't do that. The police officers, if they don't see it visually happening right there, I mean, their hands are tied to a certain extent, you know? And so they keep picking up the same people and putting them in jail, trying to do what they can. But this is where the city comes in, where the mayor comes in, is they get a lot of revenues on the marijuana sales. I mean, they can open a facility, there's empty facilities.
If we build a world-class homeless facility, you're gonna have, it's like I used to live in Miami, and it was just inundated with homeless people because it's a beautiful place to live. If you make it beautiful, you're gonna start, attracting homeless people from across this airport.
Yeah. No, we're only making it to the point where they can come in, they can get a mental status, mental check, because a lot of these the homeless are addicted, which bring up mental issues, which they're not responding normally, and so they need a place, for assessment, because my son got out 2 months ago from jail, and he was telling me, I don't want to live like this anymore, and this and that. So I went around trying to get him help, and there was none. I mean, Gospel Rescue Mission had closed at 3:30, and and then he went back to drugs because there was nothing else for him to do, And I'm sure he's one of the ones that has given some people some hard times, which I regret, but that's what caused me to start moving, on these things. And so hopefully, somebody will do something about it, because they're limited to what they can do as well, so they're officers, they're there, and which, gotta help them, because, yes.
And I know I saw the hand up over here and a hand up over there, so.
I think if we adopted that area, what I was saying here, that if we could make it work, with the guidance of police officers and trained individuals, that the other cities and states would see it, and maybe they would adopt it. So we wouldn't have them coming from all over to here. Maybe just temporary, we get started, but I think the other cities, they would see it.
Sir, I know you had your hand up.
Yeah, I did. I was going to with his response was, we call police in the past. The police just don't show up. It takes them hours. It takes them 3 or 4 hours. By that time, who knows what's going to happen? Because I had a guy on my own property. I own bought construction on the grid. And we have a vagrants problem down where they jump our fence because they feel it's contained in the yard, the construction yard, and they just go in and do what they want and camp out. And there's times when I'm gone for weeks at a time. I come back and my whole backyard is just completely covered with needles. I can't have my 5-year-old son there. And then at the same time, my workers won't even go there to chase them off because they're scared for their life if they go down. I had a guy come in with a pipe. Well, they pick up stuff out of my yard and come at me. I had to pull a gun on him to get him off my yard. You guys, I made the phone call. You guys never showed up. And I had a gun on the guy in his face getting him off my property. And then 4 hours later, the guy comes back and starts throwing rocks at me in my RV. Then you guys show up, and then he's gone. 5 days later, that's the last I heard. I didn't hear another word from you guys. 5 days later, the cops show up with this guy in their car at my property. This guy wants to get his stuff out of the back of your shop. What the hell is that? This is not right. And you guys want us to keep calling you guys for nothing? So I don't even call anymore. I'm just waiting for them to pick up pipe again. Because I will put that guy in the ground. I've got a family. As far as what this guy is talking about back here is, you can build the nicest building you want. There's been studies done on this in other cities, in bigger cities that can afford more than this city can. And they've proven a lot of people don't want help. They flat out do not want it. If you'd have to do a whole assessment on somebody to say, do you want the help? If you want the help, we'll help you. We'll get you the training you need. I would hire people. If they wanted to seriously get help, I'd put them to work and I would teach them trades. I could teach them trades and they could go on, get a building. I'll remodel the building with these people and let them build their own place so they can take some kind of pride in what they want to live in. This would work, but there's too many people that need assessments because the last thing you want to do is put a group of 3 people and have a fight with tools. So it gives a whole other problem. But you have to really think about how you're going to do it if you're going to do it. I mean, there's a lot of us here in the community who want to help and do what we can to help and solve the problem. But without funds to do it, it's not gonna happen.
I heard you in reference to that being a very serious call. And yes, we do need to show up if you feel like your life is in danger or somebody else's life is in danger. We should be there right away.
What you would think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, there are limitations. If we don't see a certain petty crimes happen in our presence, we can't make a physical arrest. But if we can amass enough evidence, we can take that and go to the court and get an arrest warrant and pick them up that way. We put the onus on the court to do that. So there is a way around that. Just, again, make sure the officer is doing a good, thorough investigation, and you give them all the evidence that they need to be able to accomplish that.
And in reference to calling in to dispatch, if you're initially calling in for trespassers, but then those trespassers arm themselves, by all means, we need to let that dispatcher know. Because again, that's the telephone, right? And that's us. If we're getting dispatched to a trespasser, that's gonna take less priority than subject armed with a crowbar. That's gonna take high priority, and that's when we're gonna show up ASAP.
I can talk loud,
Sweet.
I want to say, this is, a lot of these are on virtual from here in downtown, so we do get these calls. And we've actually had our own incidents that, we tried to press charges on someone. Someone within our circle actually had their backpack with their keys and everything taken. Rocks were thrown at them and they were told that they were gonna be killed. So that was over 2 months ago, 3 months ago, and we've never heard anything back if that person was picked up, if they've gotten arrested. And again, you guys unfortunately are the messengers right now, so you're gonna feel all this, and I know you're big strong enough to take it, but when we call, most of the time, the only time I hear something back is if I email Officer Glenn and let him know, and then he types back, and he says something back usually right away. But if I call the non-emergency number when we've been in situations where we've seen something, see something, say something, and we're not getting that. So that does concern me for our community, that even in this level, that we're not getting that back. But I also do want to say that not all homeless are criminals, and not all criminals are homeless. And those are some things that I love hearing, that people are thinking of some compassionate solutions and ideas, and that is a big deal, because this isn't just on our city councilors and the mayor. It is all of us coming together, trying to figure something out that's workable and doable. Other point is, I know we keep talking about beefing up security. I can look at 3 people in this room right now that I know have been working very hard to hire security, and they can't get it. I believe, excuse me for using Brad as an example, Brad has hired at different times multiple security guards, and sometimes those people don't even come back to show up when they got the job. So we're working on multiple levels of solutions that we need to work towards, but I just want us all to remember that we need to be here as a team and try to figure out a solution that's good for all of us, that we can make sure that we are supporting our police, as well as supporting each other as businesses, so we can make sure that our downtown is a good, active, and safe place for all of us to be.
Thank you for that.
Guys, I think it's already been mentioned a couple times, but a lot of times when we do call the police and they don't witness something, they say they need the video evidence. If they don't come back to look at the cameras, they don't send us the email to submit the evidence online, and nothing happens of it because they're unwilling to put in the work to get that evidence. Because we have 32 cameras in that, outside, inside, almost everything is caught on film. We have evidence, but if we're not willing to collect evidence, it's no good. You suggest we install cameras, we install the cameras. But if you're not willing to take the evidence, we spent our money for nothing.
I can definitely filter that through to the patrol shifts as well. With our technology nowadays, it's as simple as emailing you a link, and then whatever evidence that you have, literally you can upload to that link.
And a lot of the times I say they are going to email us the link, we never get the email, we can't submit it, and nothing comes of it, and it just sucks.
Got it. sorry if all of this has already been discussed. I came in a little late. So hearing about you guys can't really do anything unless you're witnessing it, and then obviously high, like very dangerous crime is priority, which I understand. But my concern is I have myself and another young lady who work with me, and we've had several instances of homeless people coming in, which normally they're fine. It's uncomfortable, but they're fine. And then other times we've had our product thrown at us. We've had water bottles thrown at us. We've been cornered. We've had very awful things said to us. And it has taken me calling 911 because I didn't know that there was another number to call, and telling this person, you need to leave, you need to leave, you need to leave, get out, and having the police on the phone to actually get them to go. So my question is, what can we do to kind of get these people out of the store if they're not threatening us in a violent way? But I mean, it creates a really bad atmosphere for our store. And the instance where I had a flower pot thrown at me, it was during the farmer's market, and there was a ton of people in the store, and there was literally parents running and screaming and grabbing their children and running out of the store. And that is not the environment that I'm trying to create. And I didn't report it. You know, I watched him walk, just leave. And he's come in since then. And you can tell he's not right in the head. And I feel bad for him, but I don't want to get hurt at the same time. So, and I'm nervous to approach him because I don't know what he will do. So what can I do, and what can I do for my employees to make sure that they're safe? I'm not comfortable with a gun. We have some pepper spray throughout the store. Luckily, we haven't needed to use it, but I don't know, like what can we do? First off, I want to recognize that that's legit scary. Like having things thrown at you, like having somebody yell at you, yes, that's scary. That's also criminal. And so by all means, you can call every single time that is happening. One of the things that Officer Glimp had included in his PowerPoint went back to a consistency factor. So this is where, especially in the downtown, if we could get somebody to sort of be the stakeholder leader in reference to creating a business watch group, where we can create more of a consistent way that we are addressing the homeless that are in this area. Trust me, there is, like, when everybody's being consistent, it's going to have better results, not only for your business, but also for, like you mentioned, compassion, and I think that's also having compassion for that individual. But this is where, again, it needs to be reported. Criminal trespass. They can be criminal trespassed from your store. And again, that's being consistent across the board. You're not alone. We've heard this from several different business owners. Yes, downtown, yes, throughout the city, where it's beautiful because many of us have that heart of compassion. And by all means, I want people to continue to have that heart of compassion. However, sometimes it is having to take, again, consistent measures that will help address getting back into those root problems of what is going on with this individual. And by all means, your safety comes number one, along with your employees' safety.
Can we ask about the issue of bail reform that has gone around the country, and what effect the police here feel like has negatively impacted on safety?
I think that goes beyond what us as a police department can do. I think that goes back into the legislation and what you can choose to vote for. Yes.
But it's happening here. I think that's.
Just so we don't leave anybody hanging, I've heard like 3 or 4 cases that are just like went into La La Land. If you can, because his email's already up there, send Aaron the case number, you know, a general incident. No, and then he's gonna send it to me. Send it to him, so he's gonna forward it to me just because it's already up there. And I'll get an answer for you. I'll figure it out. I may not reinvestigate it, but I'll figure out who the officer is, figure out if they were charged. The victims aren't always gonna find out what the disposition was with court, but so if you have any of those, send them to Aaron and he'll send it to me, and I'll get an answer for you in the next couple weeks.
I wanted to speak real quick about the business watch and why that's so effective. What makes police effective anywhere is trust with the community, to build those relationships. And when we lose that, then we get people that stop calling. And we don't know that there's a problem in an area. So an example of the guy breaking glass. With the business watch, that's something that we can solve relatively quickly. An individual crime, maybe the business has cameras, maybe it doesn't. It gets a report, it gets a case number, there's nothing left to investigate, and we go on. It's a misdemeanor crime. It's not going to get a top level investigation like a murder or, you know, ag assault or something would. However, if there's a business watch, there's a camera, there's something that you guys can speak of. Hey, I got my windows busted last night. Everybody in that group is going to check their cameras. Well, I had this guy walking by my business at this time. I had this guy doing this. Whatever. It's going to give us that information that we need to solve that quickly. Touch again on what the lieutenant said about consistency. If everybody has the same policy in the downtown area about trespassing, that makes it a lot more consistent for us. The same people we see come and go. Some places they're allowed, sometimes they're not. You see them at one business, we don't know, we can't remember everybody. Some of the businesses we do, and we take appropriate actions as appropriate. So the idea here, and the reason that we're here, is to kind of build this bridge, to try and build trust, to get you guys back working together with us, so that we can address these problems together. I know that we have shortcomings, and then, you know, sorry. We got to allocate our resources the way we have them, and I know the frustration too. I think the gentleman said it gets better for a week, and then it gets worse. And unfortunately, it's going to be cyclical because we're not security guards. There's not a municipality in the country that has enough money or officers to let officers be there 24 hours a day. So yeah, when it does get better, there's no need for us to be in the area. And the city is a big city, and there's a lot of problems throughout the city. And so our attention goes to other locations. That's also though why it's important that we have that trust with you guys, that you guys call and report it. The crime statistics and stuff that we get, the calls for service, the volume, the areas, we can allocate our resources better if we know that there's a problem in an area. So I don't want to lose sight of the meeting tonight. I just want to say that we're here to build that bridge, and that's kind of what we want to do. I see hands coming up, so I'm going to stop talking.
I'm going to go this way first, I'll come back.
Simple question, do we have a sign-up sheet or something? How is everybody going to?
Yes.
You're going to have that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I have a sheet that we can use to sign.
I can put a notebook around if you guys put this information down on it, just name, email.
And a business that you're with, please.
Whatever Aaron,
Name, especially legible on the emails, please.
My name
name is Susan. I'm with Downtown Las Cruces Partnership. I am the person who had my backpack stolen, potentially my keys and wallet as well. I did what you're not supposed to do, chase down the perpetrator myself. He was arrested. I have a case number, I don't know what happened with that. Anyway, but after that happened, I was super mad, right? Like, not happy. And so I don't want to minimize anything that we're saying tonight, but I also kind of noticed in myself that after that happened, I talked about it a lot, right? And I'm like, then I kind of think to myself, well, I'm wanting people to come and shop downtown and spend time downtown. And as a commercial district, I don't want to be telling people that it is unsafe, right? Because that's not helping any of you guys as business owners for me to be the Pied Piper against backpack stealers, right? So I think for myself and maybe for all of us, like I said, not to discount any of our experiences, but be really cognizant of that narrative. Because after my backpack incident, I asked some people to come with me to the tree lighting, and they're like, we're not going down there after dark. You told me that was stolen. You told me it was dangerous. And it's like, I didn't tell you it was dangerous. I told you I was really mad and I got my stuff back. But I don't want us as a group to be a deterrent for people to come down and enjoy all that we have to offer. Because we know that downtown is not just a wasteland of vagrants and empty buildings, right? We know that it's a vibrant commercial district with a lot of really great people and really great stuff going on. And I just think that these events are very emotional. They're very easy for us to get wrapped up in. They're very easy for us to relive over and over again. Every time I go to the library, I feel like I have a little bit of PTSD right now. Right. I'm like, who's looking at me? But that was one thing that happened. I am down here 6 days a week, all year round for 3.5 years. And I have had one really bad incident. I know some of us have had more. I know that they are ingrained in our memory, that we have incredible emotional responses to them. But I just don't want us to cloud our narrative about who we are and our community, our culture, our art, our heritage, all of those really great messages that we have to offer.
Thank you so much for that.
This is the Downtown Las Cruces Partnership Group here. I'm Ron Cruz, I'm the board president. Just in support of the Business Watch program, you have the Main Street corridor here, kind of the water and compo boundaries, but keep in mind, the corridor for downtown includes 2 residential neighborhoods on both sides of Main Street, and all the way to El Paseo. So I just really support and I encourage Business Watch, because in both the Mesquite Historic District and the Alameda District, they have very proactive neighborhood watch. So what I would like to see happen is that those 2 entities on each side of us also are sharing information across the Main Street corridor group, the Business Watch. That way, because remember, whatever happens down here usually goes that direction or that direction once they leave Main Street. So they're walking through our residences. And you would know if the watch program, Business Watch program, is tied into both sides, the neighborhood watch programs, you're gonna know what's going over there, and it could very well help, especially in the cases of video, because so many homes have door cams and stuff now. What happens downtown, we may get on video for a same incident over there on the other side, whether it's Mesquite or Alameda. That's how they leave downtown, is through those neighborhoods. And they don't go quietly all the time. So I really encourage the Business Watch. It's a very good program for everybody.
Hello everybody, I'm Cassandra Gandare, your City Councilor for District 1. Thanks so much for being here, taking time out of your busy schedule. I recognize a lot of you, and some of you I don't think I've ever met. Man, I have a lot of empathy and compassion for what you're dealing with. It's sort of overwhelming, right, to hear the number of incidences that have occurred, not only with our residents, but our businesses. So I'm here to listen and to advocate for you. One of the things that I did when I first got elected, I'm in my second term, is organize our district into Neighborhood Watch and neighborhood programs, associations, and we've done, I think, a very good job of that. And you have people from both sides of the Mesquite, some in the downtown and some in the Alameda area, that have taken on being captains of their, or president of their association and watch. And I've seen them in action because I'm carbon copied on many of those emails, and they're connected to our community officers, like Felipe and Officer Glimp and Officer Clement. And we literally have caught many people and charged them and go through the process. So I know it works, and so I'm advocating for the Business Watch program. This is something that I think should happen. Now, we've tried to do it here 3 times. This will be our 3rd time. I know there is a level of frustration and anger, angst, and you have every right to feel those feelings because of the level of crime that has occurred here. But we have to work together, and I think there is, I want to say, some feeling that we need to move on and start organizing ourselves. And I'll just leave it there. There's going to be some paperwork circulated, so you put your name and your address. There are several people that have reached out to me that said we want to be block captains, and more specifically on the north side of the downtown. And so we just need to start and move through this process. The other thing that I want to say is there's a number of programs and projects that the City Council has provided funding for, and that has been our MIH program that's directly under fire department. So the MIH goes and responds to those high 911 users and have been very successful. Someone asked, okay, what are the root causes? Are you working through those things? And I have to say, I've been a victim of a crime. I've had a murder on my street, a beheading in the Apalaca Park area. I've held many safety meetings and have worked through starting programs like our Lift Up Las Cruces program, which is an anti-poverty when you talk about crime density, and looking at the distress indexing tool specific to the 88001 area. We're in the 94% distress. If you are interested in looking at that index, you just plug in distress index and Google it and put in your zip code, and it'll tell you it rates 5 factors from poverty to median income, establishments, things of that sort. So you have an idea of the zip code and what is happening in your community. And so that Lift Up Las Cruces program is an anti-poverty program. We also have the LIGHT program, and I always forget the acronym, that will begin hopefully in January, February. It's lessen the incidence of grief, harm, and trauma. So you're talking to not a business person, but a social worker. This is what I've done for 30 plus years, specific in the child welfare arena. Ms. Montes knows me. We've worked together, and I think from that, a little bit in that way. And I appreciate the conversation around trauma. It's real, and we should be able to have these conversations and continue to have the conversations about the real trauma that you've experienced in your businesses or in your own personal life. That's real. So the LIGHT program, I'm hoping that is housed also in the fire department, will be a crisis mobile response to those folks that are unhoused neighbors that have high level of mental health issues and substance abuse or addiction. That then gets referred to like our crisis triage center that we have here. I don't know, do people know that we have a crisis triage center here and how to initiate those services as well? We now have the 988. If you put in 988, if you're experiencing a crisis, a mental health breakdown, whatever, or you need just someone to talk to, that 988 program is also a very good resource as well. We have been trying to beef up our behavioral health services for years now, from the dismantling of the services to where we're at today. And someone talked about, having the number of social workers and counselors and psychologists and psychiatrists. We're very limited in that, but there's a group, the Behavioral Health Collaborative, that's working very specifically about building the workforce around that area as well. So there's a tremendous amount of programming that's happening in that, but the issues are so complex. It won't be one thing or two things. It's a number of things, and one of the biggest problems is we don't have a seamless system of care, of coordinated care. And a lot of these folks are working on trying to get that. I will be having a meeting next Friday at the office related to, we don't have a 28-day facility. How many people know that we don't have that? We need to have it. We deserve to have it for our community. And so I'm working with the providers to establish that and to work with our legislators to get capital outlay, get on the governor's call and our legislators to provide capital outlay funding so that we could initiate a 28-day facility, because currently we don't have one, and they're being sent sometimes to the Peak, to Mesilla Valley Hospital, 5th floor, and oh, by the way, did you know 5th floor at MMC has been closed for several months?
Years.
What is that? And no political, we don't hear from folks about what people are experiencing when we don't have the services in place. So I can't do it alone. I'm ready. I want to hear you and hear your concerns. I'm pretty available. You can email me or call me on my cell, 575-915-7593. And when you do communicate with me, when there's those issues that maybe police aren't responding in a timely manner or they're not here, my job is to refer that to our city manager and hold him accountable, to hold police and other departments accountable. And then you hold me accountable, right? You're the voter. So I hope that I've given you a little bit of information about what the city is doing, what I'm doing specifically. I don't have all the answers. This is such a complex issue, but together we can, and I hope I've given you a little bit of hope. Okay, thank you.
What is your name?
My name is Cassandra Gandara. Gandara, Gandara, and my email is kgandara@los-cruces.org. All lowercase, yes ma'am. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I have somebody that works in the ER, and she is trying to bid on a building facility. For that reason alone, not to house them, but to assess them and get them going to where they have to go, because she's tired. They just let them out and they fight with her at the ER, and she's frustrated that the city's not doing anything. That's why we're focusing on buildings, to see if we can get some grants so we can open them up, set them up where they can get at least hygiene, like they don't have nowhere to go in the night, and another place where they can sleep 24 hours. They can't stay, all they can do is shower, go in, and come out after the morning. Little things like that. That's what she's trying to focus on, but she couldn't make it today, so.
So putting a resolution together for hygiene, safety.
All praises.
Coming to council on
Did anybody else want to sign or put your information in?
I probably won't need the microphone. I just have a quick question specific to downtown. Forgive me for not knowing what's there right now, but I know there was kind of a mobile surveillance station there with some cameras and lights right across from, I'm with Boner, can't see that, I spot the building, so, you know, right in front of our place in Brad, Little Joe as well. I'm just curious if, one is that there, sorry for not knowing right now, but what is it kind of used for? I'm just thinking that could be a pretty good deterrent, and also probably provide some of that high def footage. I know we had an incident in the boneyard. My footage is terrible inside. I don't have any exterior cameras. I feel safe saying that in this room. But you know, is that station, you know, in operation, and what was the goal of that unit there, and what's it used for? This is the question.
So our surveillance cameras are force multipliers. In that saying that, there's 4 cameras on it. It can be watched by one officer. And that's a whole basic principle behind it. We can see what's going on from either my office or wherever we log on from. So that way we can see what's going on and keep track of who and what they're doing in the area.
Yeah, I was just thinking if actually recorded, that can serve as good footage for, you know,
That's something.
right there on the closet that they put the program in.
That's something we are working on currently. For us to record them, we have to be physically watching it.
Yeah, I asked that would take the investment off of us to have to install, you know, obviously Brad has great cameras, you know.
Yes.
Have the funds to.
Those cameras aren't intended to be permanent because there's several areas in town so we move them around quite a bit.
Okay.
So yeah, please do still make the investment to put your own cameras in.
We do want to continue to provide funding for this, because we see this as a real deterrent. We've had a lot of issues in that Solano area. We put it in, it sort of mitigates some of the crime and whatnot, so we want to do that.
We're here because we do that mission downtown, so I thought
Yes.
it would be a fantastic start.
Absolutely. And then we're also talking about the possibility of putting security more frequently here, like all the time, I guess. And that would be something that, council, well, our tax increment development district board
Sure,
will be.
and that costs a lot of money, and back to cameras, I'm just thinking.
Well, we gotta do a
If it's
different
recording
thing.
and that's available if needed,
Yes.
you know, that costs something obviously, but it's less expensive than having security patrol them down 24 hours a day, when 23 hours and 30 minutes of that, nothing's happening that they need to be around for.
Sure.
So just curious if, you know, what that's there for, and what's done with that footage. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Comments? I'll give one last sales pitch before I stop talking. As far as the business watch, one group that's had success in Las Cruces is the major retailers. They have a platform that they communicate with. And an example of a call that came out on patrol was a shoplifting that happened at the Walmart on Valley. They didn't get away with any merchandise, but they were able to get pictures of them, and they sent it out on that app. Well, they went to the Walmart to do the same thing. We still weren't able to catch up to them then, but then they went to Target, and that's where we were able to catch up to them. How that would work downtown is, you know, if somebody is assaulted, trespassing, or whatever it is, on one side, you guys communicate on the app. You might be able to tell the officer that responds, he's at this location now, or he's here, or, you know, because you guys are communicating on that app. So that's the force multiplier. That's how that works for us. If anybody is interested in spearheading the business watch, just get with one of us when we're done, and we can let you get through that. So Aaron might want to take this. You guys pick the platform in which you speak on. So there's literally, I think there's hundreds of different platforms that you can use. An example would be WhatsApp. And you guys, each business has one person that's responsible for communicating on that app. I think more people can see it, but you guys are, you know, there's one person from each business that can add something. And so yeah, you guys can talk amongst yourselves about the problems you're facing and stuff like that, and then share it with us. It's not something that we actively monitor, but something that we can get access to if you guys share it with us.
I live at Pioneer Park, and we have a neighbor who calls herself Mrs. Kravitz. So she has just decided to kind of take it upon herself to develop like a 20-person text message. And so if somebody's defecating on somebody else's lawn or intimidating their dog or coming up to their house, she just sends out a text message to all 20 of us. It says, lock your door, you know, check your car, just look outside, you know, just kind of be careful. And so I'm wondering if that might work for downtown. If all of you had each other's just one text message and you said, Mary, you know, there's somebody in my store who's throwing a pot, you know, look out, this is what they're wearing, you know, just so that people can kind of be on the lookout, you know, that somebody's coming down the pike. So it's helped for us a lot.
Thank you for that, and that's exactly what those communication apps do. The apps are just a little bit easier to manage using them as opposed to a straight text thread. That's the only difference, but that is exactly what it does, and that's the whole idea. Thank you.
I think also, like idea, the big benefit of the app is when you're on vacation or you're home, you can turn off notifications to it. Whereas if it's a text message, you might get woken up at 2 in the morning or something. So, just another idea.
Okay, Grace, you're being called out. And so yes, we do have different programs. As Mayor Pro Tem Gondota was pointing out, there are different initiatives that the city is taking. One of the initiatives that the police department has taken is we have one of our own LCPD cares advocates, Grace, here tonight. They are absolutely wonderful, where it's just that, where it is social workers that we've introduced into our police department, where they end up being that bridge in between when we have things occurring, but we need to be providing more service-oriented, whether it be mental health, whether it be substance, addiction. She can go in and she can provide those different, again, stakeholders within this area that the police department doesn't necessarily have, but that the community has. And so, yes. Grace, did you want to say anything?
I will. I wasn't going to speak, but thank you for mentioning the LCPD cares. I'm proud to be an advocate here in my community, born and raised. I, along with my partner, David Saravia, we are out there for you all. Please use this as a resource. Some of the areas that we can help you with is, say you need assistance with looking up a report. We can ease up some of that from our law enforcement officers. We work closely with our outreach officers. We recently established our community pop-ups. Recently we had one at the KFOX bookstore downtown. We have another one coming up, I want to say the 19th out at FYI La Vida Project. We also have one at Walgreens on El Paseo. And these are, we're bringing the resources, us, to the community. So say, for example, we had one also, outdoor adventure on Missouri, where my partner and I will bring up just our table, our tent, some swag, of course, some currently have chapstick and hand sanitizer. People love that. But we also have the opportunity to hear the feedback from you all, the good and the not good. We've heard a lot, and be able to assist where we can, or refer to where we can. I like to call it connecting the dots. So developing open team strategies for us all as a community to help one another. So we go out to the community. So you guys will see us out there. And of course we let our officers know where we're at, what we're doing. And if there's anything that we could further assist with, please let us know. That's what we're there for. And you'll see us out at a lot of events. We do a lot of events. We work the tree lighting. We go out to the community schools. Basically, we just bridge together community with police. So again, my name's Grace. And you guys can always reach me at the police department. Our office is located at the East Mesa Safety Complex. So that's where you guys can find me. Okay. And if you have any questions, I have my card. I just didn't bring my brochure. I left in the car, but I'm always available. Okay. Any questions? Not here to frustration. But hopefully we can work together to provide solutions for our community.
Thank you for that, Chris. Questions, comments? If, obviously, we can stay, like, the team can stay here after, and so if you need to, like, see one of us and pull one of us aside for some concerns that you have that you wanted to address specifically with one of us, we can stick around. Again, I thank you for being here. It starts by having the conversations, and from there, I am optimistic that we can brainstorm solutions. So again, thank you for coming.
Thank you guys.
Excuse me. Can I get one of your cards, please?
What's your name?
Andre?
Andre, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Oh.
My name's Grace Day. It's okay, and I can reach through that.
Oh, thank you so much. Very nice to meet you,
Do you
Grace.
have any questions?
Not at this time.
All right.
But yeah, I'll be in touch. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. But yeah, I'll.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You have a good evening, okay?
Oh, thank you so much. Have a good night, Grace.
Again, that's
doesn't put any because of that operation zero. Or like was there something? Yeah, it was like.
Okay, let me follow up. You might still have to go to court. Hopefully it's taken care of.
I need to move forward.
It sounds to me like you're probably gonna want to share your information to your story with the judge, and then it would be up to the judge to determine, like, if it's gonna, they're gonna do that.
Because I also, like, I
What
was
is your
like
number?
secretary, so I was also cheating,
Let me follow up with Supervisor Roach. I will see him tomorrow, and then I will give you a call. Will do. I'm in front of Joyce.
Was there any kind of, like, so my front neighbors did get them, I submitted it to the, I also feel like my side might have knocked them on camera, but I didn't know it all.
Oh, yes, I have.
He would have had an actual clear view down there.
Continue this conversation tomorrow. I have got, yes, this gentleman wants like to hit up with the airway as well. But I will give you a call, okay?
Still one word. Okay, I'll see if I can get an update for you. If there's something. I'll get an answer to you hopefully by next week, one way or another. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm trying to get okay. Have a good night. So yeah, you know, he just gave me a case number, so just forward it to me and I'll figure something.
I guess someone might have been signed. If I can look it up, I'll look it up.
Yeah, the code file. He's called CID and it hasn't been signed. Yeah, I didn't. Just send it to Aaron and come figure it out. That's all right.
And that is like as far as
3 times now.
And so, by all means.
With that assault, they didn't even take a statement, they didn't take other employees, but they took a statement from 2 people who were daydreaming over a little.
And this is where, no officer clinic mentioned it, but yes, by all means, like, and his underneath office.
I'm not saying you guys would, you have a station with high def cameras that are just recording and have some things, but now getting someone who have to go back and look how do I do that? Not some other way.
Just send it to Aaron, or you have one, just send it to me.
So like I said, you got that point where
So they're working. Well, and that's where obviously.
It's not pre-mixed.
That is new because that is like, that's that trust of roads and everything. But at the same time, it is saying that I'm frustrated because like nothing's getting done. And so I hear you there, but this is also where we have means to make like everything.
I'm not saying nothing's even better, but our philosophy on it is we're looking to see what's going on, so we think it's just going to, and you guys might be doing that.
That's not, I know there's gonna be an exception, but like the indoors one I'm talking about, that thing's been going on for years. And it's just years ago, very dry.
Yeah,
A lot of
and
that
so
stuff,
the process takes time. That's part of the tier.
Yeah, I know. But like it's the opposite.
Sure.
All we see on there is like, you know, and then, you know, the guy's still walking around there, doing things.
Sure.
Even though it's still going through the process, like you said. From our view, we're like.
Nothing happens, even though that it's part of the system,
If there's-
things are occurring.
There was a way
I
to
can understand.
I don't know the answers, but you.
That's the report.
New Mexico, of course,
Yeah, and
yeah,
more,
so
like,
then-
so.
I didn't know, but everybody else really does not.
I mean, we busted a drug dealer a couple weeks ago with a gun, and he's out of that state. And he's back home, back where he's dealing and so forth. And, you know, each officer is judged on many, many, many cases. It's not easy to keep all of our victims up. They go, you know, of course, it's like the next step.
When you guys, of course, maybe you can tell me, you can track this. I'm not asking you guys to do extra work, but making people aware of where they can find it themselves.
Yeah, and so it's more of an educational component, like, hey, if you want to follow up on this case over here.
I don't blame you. I learned that too.
Oh, like I said, I know I live it, I go and check all the time. Look, like the guys who shot it, I saw in the paper, they got picked up, or some other case, even came back next week on the first charges. The officer knew about it. Because they live in why this is gonna. Okay, well.
And by all means, this is where, send the email, especially when you're wanting to follow up, you want those charges pursued. Yes, that is our responsibility.
It was like 6-7 months later, they shot those like 2 hats, and I was like, yes, I need to work on mine. They got to go for. That's why we have more serious. Anyway, I'm gonna see, I can just send, since I got his email, just send that and, if you can send a word, and, at the very least, maybe we'll increase patrols down there.
Right?
Yeah, like I said, people can be watching.
Like Santa's out there right now, like a.
Well, he's always out there.
Cool bicycle.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
All right, have a good night.
You too. How are you?
I'm doing well, how about yourself? Like, okay, so which station are you at? Oh, super cool, super cool. And like, are you assigned too? Like, I'm all curious. Sure. So, what are you on? Okay, it's Lieutenant Joy Waitala, that last name is Wiitala, and I'm the lieutenant over community outreach.
So my first question would be, what would you tell citizens that you're doubt, when you see a crime, the first thing is to call the cops, right? There's a lot of things out there, that's not the first stop, because it's bad about the police. So what would you tell them?
Okay, obviously, if there's a crime occurring, we want to be involved. If it's one of those things where they're worried about the law enforcement within the community, I think you're getting like a bigger picture there, where that has to go into the trust that they have for their police department in this community. I would like to say that I know that I work with very good people, with good intentions and want to do good things. And this is where I would continue to encourage people to call, whether that be non-emergency, the 575-526-0795, or emergency 911. As police officers, we take oaths, and the majority of us, I'm not going to say all of us, but the majority of us take those oaths very seriously, and we genuinely do want to help our community. And so I know that there are instances where, unfortunately, people maybe are hesitant to call us because of maybe a past experience that they've had. I would ask for them to reconsider and maybe to give us another opportunity. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So for downtown in general, what do you think is like the next step? You guys talked about the community wants to, is that you guys' next step you guys think that could help the most?
So I think one of the things that came out in the meeting tonight was we really addressed how, as a police department, we can't be everywhere at all times. And so this is where we like to articulate it as force multipliers. And so one of the things that we can do is we can say, hey, community, yes, we're caring about you. Yes, we're caring about the crime that's occurring here. And now also help us by being part of a neighborhood watch group, or in this downtown case, being part of the business watch group, where, again, the businesses can come together, collaborate together. But then again, it's a force multiplier for us, because all of a sudden now, instead of potentially having one camera that maybe picked up a crime that we can follow up with, now we have maybe 4, 5, 6, or 7, and we're going to have more information in reference to pursuing and following through with potential charges, and again, looking at trying to resolve some of the problems that we are having. Again, force multipliers, like again, working together community-wise to say that yes, we hear your concerns, yes, and those are concerns in reference to everything from the petty misdemeanors to the felony crimes.
And finally, so they have actually brought this up in here as well. Like they say, I heard this not just here that they brought it up, but a couple other people around that say that usually they don't follow through after they come through. Like they just do the paperwork and they never follow through. And you know, a lot of people with personal experience, they're like, yeah, we called the cops, they came and just never followed through with it. So, what would you say to that?
And in reference to that, that is where we need to be holding our officers accountable. We do want follow through. And so if there are instances where follow through is not occurring, that is where, yes, it needs to be addressed. And whether it's contacting the police department, whether it's contacting supervision, that is where, yes, we need to be doing our job in reference to following through with the cases that are occurring. And obviously, that's something that I can take back to the department to say, hey, this is something that we need to be cognizant of, and to make sure that when we do have these crimes, again, whether it be petty misdemeanors all the way up to felony crimes, to follow through and do our due diligence in pursuing what we need to pursue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Once I look, yeah.
And then,
What was your name?
Dan.
Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. So you know you?
Yeah, when I went to school.
Okay,
Yes, Sarah.
You work for the police department, sir?
Yes.
Could I?
work for the city.
Do you have a business card?
I don't, yeah.
Okay. You mind giving me your name? I'm sorry.
Dan Trujillo,
Okay.
spokesman for the
Oh, sounds good. Do you have a number I could get?
I just switched offices. I don't know if my phone was.
Maybe an email address?
Yeah, it's D Trujillo
Las Cruces daughter.
Thank you, sir.
Las Cruces daughter, yeah.
Okay.
We just switched lanes. D for you and Las Cruces daughter.
Thank you, sir.
I'm sorry. Las Cruces daughter.
Oh, .gov. Okay.
There you go.
Have a great night. You're a city council member, ma'am?
Yes.
And I'm sorry, what's your name again?
Cassandra Gambetta.
Thank you. All right, have a great night.
I could incriminate myself if somebody from standing out of it, right? You know, so it's like, but on the flip side, who do you argue on one side? So it's totally- The other is just, you try to better make it. Hopefully, we'll get some kind of talk program, just some kind of communication platform, or some sharing of information. I know that by itself will help.
I mean, at the very latest, by next week, I'll send out to everybody on this list and get that started, and then.
I unfortunately can't offer to be the director of this.
I completely understand.
Yeah, we all have stuff going on, right?
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the information. I'm Brian White.
I might be there on Saturday.
I'm so excited to, I'm so good physically. Oh, no, I remember. I know, he's already preparing me. Like, he's not letting me sleep. Like, I was listening to this one sleep for like 2.5 hours last night. I'm just like.
Nobody told me that.
That'll be coming up.
I'll do the feeding, you do the burping. Diaper changing.
See you guys in the morning. See you.
So
you go with Becky again?
Yes.
Yes, because they were telling me about like all your dog stories.
Yes. The Frenchies.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so I told them like, I remember you go downtown.
Yeah.
And you were always telling me all about your.
Yeah, I love them, but they haven't seen me in a few months because I've been on like light duty. I've been supervising at work. So, and